Morning, everyone. Welcome to this multi-platform service of the Unitarian Church of Staten Island. We are grateful to have you join us. For those here in person, it's wonderful to have you with us. Please be sure to continue to maintain social distancing as I see you doing. Masks are now optional, so you can still sing along during the hymns and read along to any responsive readings. Those attending in person are invited to join us in the parish hall for hospitality after the service. And let me just give you a rundown of what is happening in the church today and this week. Weekly gatherings include our Jolly Holly meeting at 12:15 here in the sanctuary. Unfortunately, our Get Connected session has been canceled because Kathy Santo is under the weather today. We have a women's group via Zoom on Wednesdays at 7:30, run by Kathy Santo. And we have a men's group that is run by Tom Saluga. If you need information, you can grab Tom during the service some other day than today. For those joining us online, we send special greetings to you. We hope you take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. After service, you are all invited to a virtual coffee hour. For those here in person, we gently remind you to please silence your mobile devices at this time. And now, let us prepare for this morning's service.
The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Why should the law refuse the protection in any sensitive being? Jeremy Bentham, 1789, An Introduction to the Principles of Morals and Legislation.
I invite you to join me in lighting our chalice. You can find the affirmation in our order of service. We light this chalice in the search for truth and the spirit of love. We unite in worship and fellowship. As an extension of lighting the chalice, I want to take a moment to light candles and say the names of those who have recently been affected by police brutality, knowing that we can't cover all the names of those affected. We light a candle for the life of James Talbot III. We light a candle for the life of Vaughn Perkins. We light a candle for the life of Eldridge Alexis. May these lights be a symbol of our commitment to continue the work of racial justice and to proclaim Black Lives Matter. Please join us now in singing hymn number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. That's in your gray hymnal. It's now time for joys and sorrows, and we invite you all to share your joys and sorrows this morning. If you're visiting us for the first time, it would be a good time to introduce yourself. For those gathering in person, we invite you to raise your hand, and then stand where you're seated, and I'll bring you the microphone. Please then share what is on your heart after saying your name. For those joining online, we invite you to type into the chat your joys and sorrows, and Sally will read them aloud. Sally, please remind me about that. Those in the chat, we invite you to share what is in your heart. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. I know when I get over here, everyone will raise their hands. There we go. Claudette.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone that came out last week, Saturday, to celebrate Jill Avdon life in our memorial service. It was a lovely service. Ben was here, Ben Bortney did a great job, and it was a good service overall. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the chat, Sally?
Hi, I'm Randy. I had a pleasant experience this week with cousins who were visiting from Germany. The wife is from here, but she married a German man. And we were, I guess, continuing some of the Jewish customs that the family never observed, but we visited a number of cemeteries where our ancestors were buried. Had a fun time clamoring over grave sites trying to find the right one, but it was a very nice experience.
Anybody in the chat, Sally? Okay. We're grateful for all the joys and sorrows we have heard and that were shared in our community, and for all those that have gone unspoken. May the attention and care we give each other and those beyond this space remind us that we are not alone. We will now pause for meditation. I will offer a quote to focus your meditation and then ring the bell. And at that point, I invite you to begin the meditation with 3 deep breaths. After a few minutes, I will ring the bell again to mark the end of our time. Today's quote from the Dalai Lama is as follows: "Life is as dear to a mute creature as it is to man. Just as one wants happiness and fears pain, just as one wants to live and not die, so do other creatures." It's time for the reading. Today's readings were chosen by our speaker, Juliette Moore. The first reading is from The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It was all so very businesslike that one watched it fascinated. It was pork making by machinery, pork making by applied mathematics. And yet somehow the most matter-of-fact person could not help thinking of the hogs. They were so innocent. They came so very trustingly. And they were so very human in their protests, and so perfectly within their rights. They had done nothing to deserve it, and it was adding insult to injury as the thing was done here, swinging them up in this cold-blooded, impersonal way, without pretense and apology, without the homage of a tear. The next reading is from Angela Davis. The food we eat masks so much cruelty. The fact that we can sit down and eat a piece of chicken without thinking about the horrendous conditions under which chickens are industrially bred in this country is a sign of the dangers of capitalism, how capitalism has colonized our minds. The fact that we look no further than the commodity itself, the fact that we refuse to understand the relationships that underlie the commodities that we use on a daily basis. It's now time for our offertory. We will now take the offering. And we know it is the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and gather. For those here in person, we invite you to drop your offering into the collection plate. For those online, links and instructions will be posted in the chat. You can mail us a check, donate through the PayPal giving page on our website, but please give as generously as you can. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Please join us in singing hymn number 175, also in the Gray Hymnal. Please stand to your right. I invite Juliette Moore to the podium to speak about veganism and the seventh principle.
I just want to say that the tree pollen is getting to me, so excuse me for a moment. I may have to cough, so sorry about that. Thank you very much for letting me speak here today, especially on such a fraught topic. I think this naturally comes under the seventh UU principle, which is respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. So not very big, right? I want to start with a quote from We Are the Weather, Saving the Planet Begins at Breakfast by Jonathan Safran Foer. Our free will is not omnipotent. We can't do whatever we want. But we are free to choose from possible options. And one of our options is to make environmentally conscious choices. It doesn't require breaking the laws of physics or even electing a green president to select something plant-based from a menu or at the grocery store. And although it may be a neoliberal myth that individual decisions have ultimate power, it is a defeatist myth that individual decisions have no power at all. Both macro and micro actions have power. And when it comes to mitigating our planetary destruction, it is unethical to dismiss either, or to proclaim that because a large cannot be achieved, the small should not be attempted. The interdependent web of existence is many things to many people, like a lot of UU concepts, and why not? That's part of the UU DNA, as it were, having an open mind. So today I'm going to talk about one possible vision of the web of life, a vegan view. And just to, have an explanation of veganism, a vegan is someone that tries to avoid eating or using animal products, including meat, milk, eggs, leather, wool, basically anything that comes from an animal. Mankind has affected our planet in devastating ways. The most prominent way, I think, is by putting too much carbon in the atmosphere. We're familiar with the effects of a warming world. We can think of Hurricane Sandy, where more people died here in Staten Island than any place else. We can think of, the atmospheric river in California that they suffered through, months ago, where whole houses were swallowed up, roads and bridges washed away. And there's too many examples now to mention. Humans have transformed the surface of the earth, of the air, and the water. And one of the major ways we've transformed it is through animal agriculture. Of all birds on earth, 57% are now food animals. Livestock production is the #1 cause of habitat and biodiversity loss. And we know the Amazon is being clear-cut for beef cattle. Although maybe now that Lula's been elected, maybe that'll change, I don't know. But that's the earth's lungs, as they say. It's a cliche, but it's true. But one of the major ways we've changed, of course, is all the water and land that we use for animal agriculture. Animal agriculture produces about 18% of greenhouse gases worldwide. So the argument there is, well, but that's food. Humans need food. The funny part about that is that here in the United States, we grow tons of food. We grow soy and corn, but that's not to feed people. It's for agricultural animals. Some of you may know the math problem. It takes 9 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat. So we lose 9 pounds of nutrition in that equation. Most of the world's fresh water is spent on agriculture. And a recent Oxford study said that adopting a vegan diet can lower an individual's carbon footprint by 73%. So we know the impact of these systems on our world in a larger sense. I mean, it's easy to understand these concepts, these scientific concepts, but I really want to take it out of the scientific plane. I think that, We understand things on an intellectual level, but a transformation comes from feeling something on an emotional level. At least that's how it was for me. I was not raised with the idea of veganism or vegetarianism, or had no awareness of that. When I moved out on my own, I finally got to experience something that I'd always wanted, which is I wanted my own pets. I always had cats when I grew up, and they were always family pets, but I wanted my own cats. So I got 2 cats, Darwin and Huxley. Even then I like science, right? So I was responsible for always. And at that time when I got them, it dawned on me how much power I had over them, over their lives, over their existence. If I was a sadist, I could be cruel to them, or I could be a bad parent and neglect them. It was a revelation when they were my cats, mine, that the immense amount of power humans have over all types of animals. And in that thinking, I didn't see any difference between my cats and animals at the zoo and food animals. All animals under human power. So it was really the power imbalance that got to me. And I just decided I can't eat meat anymore. It was it was a black and white decision. And I started to learn more, which I didn't really have, an idea about our industrial food system. And, there's efforts to keep that hidden, right? So over the years, I became a vegetarian, and I chose cage-free eggs and organic milk without hormones. And, I tried to, have consciousness about the food I was choosing. But after doing this for a while, and after learning more, I realized morally this is not enough. And what really changed it for me was about 15 years ago, almost 15 years ago, I visited a farm sanctuary. And a farm animal sanctuary, something that was invented in New York State, by the way, is where animals have been rescued from the industrial food system and can live out their natural lives, which doesn't happen in any way that animals are exploited for food, right? They don't get to live out their natural lives. Even chickens that lay eggs, cows that give milk, there's no natural ending for their lives. They're all in the food system. Anyway, there's quite a few sanctuaries upstate and all over the country, and they're really wonderful places to visit because it's the only place that animals that have been farmed are then recognized as individuals with lives and desires to live, and where they're not exploited for anything that they can produce. They're just living. Anyway, it's very, soothing for the soul. So I first went about 15 years ago, had some sunny side up eggs that morning, which I really love sunny side up eggs. And then I went to the farm sanctuary and I was like, those were the last eggs I was knowingly going to eat. I didn't know that when I got there, but that's what happened. Once I learned how animals are treated in the industrial food system, that cage-free doesn't really have like a legal meaning. And there's lots of efforts in the animal welfare movement to make those things laws, but they're just kind of like, they're amorphous. They're not distinct. So what I learned there is the exploitation and manipulation of egg-laying hens, and also the exploitation and abuse of dairy animals. And I had to confront myself and say, if you're really disturbed by this abuse of power by humans, there's really only one conclusion to come to, and not participate in such a system of abuse. So I'm going to talk about some aspect of animal farming that's very prominent in New York State. There's 5 big dairy states, and New York is one of them. A lot of people know about meat. It's very straightforward. You raise an animal, slaughter it, and that's meat. Dairy industry is different because what we obtain is a product the animal makes, and it makes it even more of a cog in a machine. Now, to give milk, a cow must be impregnated. Mechanical insemination is the most efficient, no consent required. After 9 months, cows give birth, usually on a concrete floor, and their babies are immediately taken away. The mothers are hooked to milking machines. The babies can't even nurse once because their milk is for us and is to be sold to us. Now, the boy calves, they're never going to produce milk. So they're chained up for about 6 weeks before they're slaughtered for veal. The reason they are chained up is to prevent them from moving and developing muscle tissue that would darken the meat and make it tough. It's not as palatable. So they're chained so they can't move. They are also fed a deficient diet to keep the meat light colored, and keep the taste of veal. And I want to be clear here about the financial connection between dairy and veal, because a lot of people hate veal. They don't like the idea of killing babies, but those things are together. One is a product of the other. One informs the other. So I just want to make that clear. Now, the girl calves, they'll eventually give milk, right? So they're taken away, and one day too, they'll be impregnated again and again and again, and have their babies taken away again and again. Now, the girls are usually raised in these like doghouse things, and they're not fed their mother's milk, not once. Because of how the calves are born and how their mothers are harnessed and unable to turn around, newborns get stepped on and get a broken leg. I know this because I read a lot of farm sanctuary stories. Now, this animal's really useless. So a newborn baby, fresh out of its mother's womb, is on the ground. She steps on it because she can't move, breaks the baby's leg. Now it's really useless. There's no doctor coming for the baby. There's no painkillers. The baby is not going to be fed or given medical care because it has no financial value. Now, cows can live about 20 years left to their own devices, but not a dairy cow. There's, cows on farm sanctuaries, they can live 20, 25 years. A dairy cow, the multiple pregnancies, yearly pregnancies that she's forced to go through, will leach her body of nutrients, especially her bones, and she'll be slaughtered when she's about 4 to 6 years old. Now, some people in the dairy industry will say that cows don't care about their babies. But it's been very well documented, especially by an activist in farms in Ireland, that they take the babies away, the mothers will cry so long that they damage their voice, and then they can't make any more sounds. Recently, this was something to do with the atmospheric river. I saw a video online of some veal cows in California. So they have these individual, they're like dog houses, plastic dog houses where the calves are chained up. So it flooded, and the calves' heads were above water. They're chained up and they're treading water. Dozens and dozens of them. This video is easily found online. Anyway, that's not animal cruelty. That's not animal cruelty, because those are commodities. They're an investment. They're an insurance loss. When a pig facility catches fire and pigs are locked in and burned alive, it's a tax write-off. There was recently, just this week, 18,000 cows died in a fire in Texas. And one person there was severely injured, so he's in critical condition, but 18,000 cows died. And the reason is because they produce methane, which ties us back to greenhouse gases. Cows produce methane. So it was a huge explosion, and all of those animals died. Those are commodities, and tax write-off. So there's also ag-gag laws. I don't know if you've ever heard of these. Ag-gag laws are designed to prevent us from seeing what is going on. So there's lobbying industries that are very connected to the USDA that pass laws in states, Colorado, Utah, that make it crimes for people to document what goes on there. And there's activists fighting this. So they don't want to reveal what is going on. They don't want to reveal the system of animal torture. And I know it's hard to hear that a living, breathing, feeling creature is just a commodity to be discarded when used up or when it's convenient. Have you heard about capitalism? I mean, that's pretty SOP. Just some of it we know about and others are hidden from us. So the question is, are we comfortable with this status quo? Are we comfortable knowing this? So let's tie this back to the seventh principle. Does the interdependent web of life mean we can have cheese without ethical questions? The vision of respect for the interdependent web of life of which we all are part means for me that exploiting and killing animals, damaging, polluting our only home, destroying families, creating physical and mental suffering on a massive scale, it's not acceptable. And we unknowingly become complicit in this. We ingest suffering, we pay for it. I'm sure you can guess that billions of tax dollars go to the dairy industry. There are 9 million dairy cows in America, 9 million, and they are all birthing mothers with their children taken away. I'm very passionate about this topic because I don't see those creatures as something that I should have power over, nor should they have power over me. We should live equitably. So just the idea of thinking about this is very disturbing to me. And we kill about 10 billion animals for food in this country every year. I'm not going to diminish human suffering either. I mean, there's the prison system, there's slavery in this world that is going on, where people are actually enslaved. Human suffering is vast and consequential, and I'm not trying to erase human suffering. My cell phone has conflict medals in it that were probably mined by children. I drive a fossil fuel car. I live in a single family home, not an apartment building, and single family homes are famously, carbon producing. And as an American, even a vegan, I'll produce much more carbon than climate refugees in Central Asian fleeing floods ever could. So it's not clear cut. The industrial powers that be don't want us to have an encompassing view of the world. They want us to only worry about ourselves, not first, but only. They want us to be inattentive, unseeing. That was the way they can maximize profit without regard to suffering and build that into the system. Hopefully some eyes are open today. So we all pick and choose the sins we commit, along with the mercies we grant, ethical lines we cross and recross. We wrestle, we change, we have new information, and we remember things we forgot. So why a vegan? There's other things to do. Because that's an action I can take in the here and now, every day and every meal. I make that choice to not harm. Because my memories, my aesthetics, family traditions, my social milieu do not make me forget what I now know and will always have awareness of. Let compassion be our guide. Let us have sympathy and empathy for others, including other beings. Are there people who enjoy this cruelty? There might be some sadists who do, but I think the opposite of compassion is not cruelty, it's indifference. So don't be afraid of awareness. We can be mindful of the farm worker that picked the berries we are eating. We can be mindful of the slaughterhouse worker. Their gruesome exploitation is a whole other sermon, especially now that they're employing children to clean slaughterhouses. You'll find that in the Times. We can think of the people who dispatch the chicken we eat. We can be mindful and aware that the cheese that we eat came from a mother in an industrial system. I refuse to believe that opening your heart to the suffering of others can be wrong for us to do, even if it's shocking or painful. And even if it doesn't transform our complicated lives, in the interconnected web of obligations, traditions, habits, and humanity of which we all are a part, awareness engenders compassion. And more sensitivity to suffering changes us. We're more ready to recognize the suffering of others, of all kinds. And how can that be wrong? How can that be wrong? Compassion and empathy create love. And love is not limited to just ourselves or our family. We can love humanity, we can love animals, and we can love the earth. And that is the root of the seventh principle. It is love for all life. And love has no scarcity. We need only give it. And what is love? Some say love is action, and that's true. But a lot of love, especially if you raise children, is attention. If you have relationships with anybody, it's attention. So attend the suffering of mothers and babies in a system that commodifies them, a system of lifelong suffering and death. When we do the work on the vision of the world we want to see, we will love them and we won't be able to forget them.
Thank you. Please join us now in singing our closing hymn, which is 1052 in the Teal hymn book. It's called The Oneness of Everything. invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice, which has already extinguished itself. You can find the affirmation in our order of service, though. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words are my favorite vegan quote ever, because it's just so simple. It's from Gene Bauer, who is the founder of Farm Sanctuary, which is in Watkins Glen, which is the first farm animal sanctuary in the country. And the picture in the order of service is from when we stayed there last year. And, you know, you get to meet and interact with the animals. And there's many upstate, and that's just one of them. We try to go to one every year. It's very restorative to the soul. And this is the quote. If you could live well without harming others, why wouldn't you?